All right, guys. So we have episode 1 of Dark Matter titled Are You Happy in Your Life? I think the first thing we should just get out in the open is that all three of us, Luke, Kyle, Jim, we have not read the source material. We wanted to keep ourselves clean slate, just like we did for Silo, the other Apple TV Plus show we've covered. We want to be able to give you guys theories, instant reactions, all clean slate. So if you're a book reader, we're not going to have too much book talk for you guys, but it'll be fun for you to hear three guys who have no idea what we're talking about when it comes to the books just talk about this TV show. So I've already given my intro. I've already talked too much. Luke, Kyle, someone jump in. What do you guys think of this pilot?
Yeah, so I can start with my initial thoughts. I like that you pointed out we are not source material guys because just like Apple TV does with all of his other shows, I feel like they're subpar at marketing. So I didn't even know that this was coming out until Kyle put it on our radar. But this is like the definition of my type of show. I'm speaking for Kyle as well. Like our favorite TV show of all time is Dark. This is
Mhm.
right up that sci-fi mind-bending alley. Like that's just perfect for me. Like I will watch anything like this. I just watched Constellation also on Apple TV that came out this year. Very similar themes and very similar just genre in general. And these shows, like I just can't get enough of them. So I was ready to jump into this. The issue I want to point out is I feel like trailers, we're living in an age
Yeah,
where trailers are the worst. Like
I agree.
they're just tailored to get the general public to know basically a summary of like everything we're about to see. Like this whole episode, I almost felt like there were no surprises just because I knew what the show was about, which is unfortunate. It's going to make this conversation probably a little bit just surface level because there's nothing to dissect yet because everything that we saw in this episode with the two different realities and like him getting abducted, that's how the show was billed just to the general public. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
there's not a lot to really break down there, but like the concept again, like it's incredibly interesting. I'm very ready to jump in. I love just listening to podcasts on like quantum physics. So when people just take the Schrodinger's cat and like run with that concept and superposition, that's like a very common thing for sci-fi to latch onto. And this is just my type of show. So like I'm ready to talk about it. Some all-star cast here. Like I love Joel. He's great.
Yeah.
Our girl, God, I should have wrote her name down. She was in
Jennifer
Murder at
Connelly.
well, yeah, I was gonna say bring her up
Oh,
as well, but the Murder at the End of the World, which we covered as
oh,
well.
yeah,
Sean from
Amanda.
that show. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Who plays Amanda? She's from that. So she's also a recent Binge Town favorite. And then of course, Jimmy Simpson,
Yeah.
Yes.
Westworld, Always Sunny. He just
Always
makes
sunny.
me
Yeah.
freaking smile when he's on the screen. Like he is one of my favorite people just to throw into a show and just let him go to work because he's just so likable. And I can't wait to see more of him in this show. Maybe like there's gonna be an
Agreed.
evil side of him that's gonna be fun. It's just this is just gonna be really fun to talk about. So, but we're obviously gonna get some of the science stuff wrong, and we have nothing to link this to for source materials, I keep saying. So give us a little bit of leeway here, but we'll get there. I think we're gonna hopefully like this as much as those other type of shows like Dark and Constellation.
Jimmy Simpson's his name, right?
I think so,
Yes.
He
yeah.
Hmm.
is there's like a tweet that floats around from time to time where it's like name a guy where you see him on like a TV show or a movie you're watching. It's like, oh, it's that guy. Like that's awesome. He is for sure on that list for me
Yeah.
where he popped up and I'm like, fuck yeah, it's Jimmy Simpson.
Him and Walter Goggins are that for me.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah.
They're good. And yeah, speaking of source material, I was very tempted to read just to have like that perspective on the podcast. But I also feel like that has kind of gotten me in the past of like being the person that knows, and then you're just too focused on the differences and similarities versus just
Right.
enjoying the story itself. So I was like, okay, I won't read. So then I started reading this book called Neuromancer by, I believe, William Gibson. Not even 2 days after I started it, Apple TV announced they have the rights to it and they're making a TV show on it. So I was like,
Nice.
okay, I mean, when you
All
try
right,
to
you'll
That's
be
not
the
win, you
best for
still
that
win.
one.
we're covering
Yes.
that, yeah.
So we'll do Callum Turner. I don't know if you guys know who that is, but he played one of the main characters in Oh my lord, Masters of the Air. Yes,
Oh my
thank you.
God,
Master
I
of
was
the
like,
Air
wait,
that we covered on
the one you
Sound
just
TV.
covered?
I
Yeah.
covered it on Bingetown. He is going to play the main character, which is cool.
Ah, nice.
And yeah, just overall thoughts of the episode. Look, could not agree more about the trailer thing. Feels
Mhm.
like we had to watch the trailer because like, should we podcast on this show or
Yeah,
not?
right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, there was no like insane twist. It still was very good. I was engaged the whole time, but excited to talk through it.
And let's just
Agreed.
mention it now about Blake Crouch, who wrote the original book, is also a showrunner. Is he the showrunner? I know he's an executive producer. Is he like the head showrunner?
I don't know about head showrunner, but I know that he wrote like almost all the
It
episodes.
says
That's
it says here upcoming American science fiction television series created by Blake Crouch. So
There you go.
yeah, okay.
he
And that's
created it, I
just
guess.
I don't know. Have we ever had an example where that's been the case, where the writer of the book is the lead show? I know George R. R. Martin was involved with Thrones, but that wasn't the same level.
Hugh
Like
Halley was
this is
just
amazing. Yeah,
Yeah,
Hugh
Hugh Halley
Howey
was
for
just
Silo.
somebody that they used as, hey, what do you think, kind of deal.
Consultant. Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
consultant on there, and which is also A plus to be able to do that. I mean, if you're gonna completely leave out
Yeah.
the person who created the book and the material, that's a rough one. But
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
don't
then
know. I don't know if we've had.
in a similar vein to the guy Jacob Verbruggen, I believe he's the director of the first few episodes. I only mention this because he directed a Black Mirror episode. If you remember the Men Against Fire with like the
Mhm.
military and they have the neural
Absolutely.
implants. Yeah, and I mentioned that to also mention when I looked that up, I didn't realize that Sarah Snook, Shiv Roy, is in that episode as like one of the main
Oh
characters.
shit,
Oh, I watched it before Succession, so I don't
Didn't realize
remember.
that at the
that's how
time,
that
but I was
works. Yeah,
scrolling through looking and I was like, Sarah Snook's in this Black Mirror episode?
Hmm. That's
it's
funny.
crazy how certain characters can and actresses or actors can become some of your favorites ever, but and you just
Yeah.
don't ever think to recognize them in old stuff they've been in because it hasn't been the show you've watched that you love them in yet. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's crazy. But yeah, I agree with you guys. It was a little rough to know the trailer, to know the specific synopsis of the show, and you see the masked man and you're like, oh, that would have been a cool reveal. I mean,
Right.
I don't know
Mhm.
that it necessarily would have been like, oh, that's cliche if it's like not going to tell you, and then that's a reveal for episode one because obviously, they've done things like that before. But I thought the Masked Man was badass. We'll get into that. I was getting some Walter White vibes from our boy Joel
Oh, for
Edgerton.
sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
And
Yeah.
then I was getting, I don't know if you guys watched this or not, and I don't know if I'm allowed to give spoilers because I can't remember if this is another one it's in the trailer or in the synopsis, but The Outsider from HBO. Did either of you watch that?
No.
Sounds
Okay.
familiar, but
So that one came out maybe like I might have been pre-COVID, and it was Jason Bateman starred in it. And yes, it gave me vibes on that, but I don't want to get into it just in case I'm giving some spoilers. But yeah,
okay.
Mhm.
yeah, let's just get into it because I
Wait,
I
last thing
really
I
did
want to
enjoy this
say,
pilot.
it's probably obvious that you're 5, 10 minutes into this podcast already, and the title of the episode is only about episode one. So Apple dropped episode 1 and 2 on the first initial drop, which is May. What's
Wednesday
the date? Yeah,
The
Wednesday,
8th.
May the
on
8th.
the
Yeah. So
8th.
we're doing
Yes.
this obviously before. And so because we were lucky enough to get screeners, we're doing this in two pieces. So we don't have any knowledge of the second. If you've already watched both, sorry if we're going to sound repetitive because we haven't yet watched the second episode. We're only going to be talking about everything held within the first pilot.
Yeah, good call. And then another just quick note about our coverage as well. We'll take scenes kind of in buckets, especially with this episode, because like we're saying, it might be a little more high level. When we want to break things down, we'll get into the details of things, but we're not going to talk about every single thing
Right.
that happens in the episode. Maybe that
Mhm.
will cause us to miss some things, but honestly, that's more opportunity for you to interact with us. You can hit us in the YouTube comments. You can join our Discord and chat there. I'm sure this feels like a show that we can talk a lot about in the Discord.
Yes.
So hopefully that becomes a thing as well. So that being said, let's start off with doing that. I think our first group of scenes we can talk about is basically everything that happens in quote unquote this first morning. So we're kind of getting introduced to Jason and his family. Jason and his son are driving to school. Jason has his lecture at Lakemont College. And then we learn a little bit about the mom. What's her name again? It begins with a D.
Daniela.
Daniela.
Danielle,
Mhm.
that's what I have it as. I mean, I have it as mom throughout, just because you get in that. You just get in that role when you first do it, and we
Yeah.
learn a little bit about her as well. So there's kind of a group of scenes here, but just kind of like an introduction to all of our characters.
Yeah. And I don't think I've seen too many things with Jennifer Connelly, but you can just tell how she acts that she is just upper tier. Like you can just get that vibe from her. And she's like a scene stealer. She's just good at her line delivery. She's a really good parallel for Jason. Jason's our main character, right? We're
Mhm.
gonna get the
Mhm.
names down. Trust me. We might sound like idiots right now, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
I also we're gonna have to work on, as we were talking about this pre-podcast, we're gonna have to work on how we're gonna talk about Jason, and then I was writing Evil J as the
I
parallel,
like Evil J.
I like
because then
that.
we avoid Jason, right? The name. So I
Yeah.
feel like that could work. We might go with Evil J, whatever. We're nickname guys. We like to, shorten
Yeah.
things, make it easier
Evil
for
J
note
works.
taking purposes. But I definitely like the family. And Jimmy, it's funny that you wrote the Breaking Bad Walter White comparison. You already brought that up because
Right.
this is just straight out of that. And Breaking Bad was the years that it came out. It was like when did that initially start? It was like 2000, late like 2008-ish
Oh,
or
6, 7, 8 ish. Yeah.
okay, because this book was written in 2016, I think. I just looked it up. So this is definitely probably has some roots in that like genius physicist that didn't quite make it and decided to go the family route. Like that's like the parallel that we're drawing here, and that's what he gives here, Jason. And it seems to me, and I am jumping ahead a little bit, that Evil Jay just went the complete opposite way,
Yeah.
where he just leaned all the way into the work, never met Daniela, never started a family, and leaned into the idea of, I guess, studying dark matter, if that's what they're doing over there in the other universe.
Yeah.
But this was a good intro. I feel like it didn't need to be complicated. You can be a little tropey with the family members, and it's a good setup.
Yeah, I think it explained a lot too by showing us rather than telling us, kind of even the family dynamic. He seems like he's like a very like forgiving part of it. She almost seems like the bad cop in their relationship, and especially with the son. I mean, she's like making fun of him because he isn't a good driver, which I
Mhm.
just thought
Yeah.
was like it made me laugh that she like was laughing when he's like, "I'm a good driver," and she like just laughs in his face and then leaves
Nah, you're not.
basically for work. And then he is very like, he's more of like a gentle parent to him. I just thought that was interesting as well, and maybe that's part of his kind of personality in that he like accepted this life for
Mhm.
himself instead of striving for more. So he's very like complacent and content. While her, we learn in that like one individual scene that she has with her friend that she's training for the Iron Man, which is you can call that very ambitious, and I would agree that that's very ambitious. But the interesting part was her friend makes that comment about how maybe she's avoiding her family,
Right.
and that was just like that's a like I'm taking that note for sure
Yeah.
Mhm.
type thing. So yeah, I'm interested to see kind of how it's hard to tell now because OG Jason is now in a different world, but like how their
Yeah.
relationship actually is versus how it was shown to us.
Yeah. It's definitely off when you have the friend say, "Are you trying to hide from your
Yeah,
family?" And then you see what she's been doing on screen with the family, like the jokingness with her son. It seems like she's obviously very involved, even though she's saying, I'm not freaking driving with you, man." This
yeah,
the dad, of
Mhm.
course, OG Jason, nice, and he's the one who's going to take his son. But I mean, their relationship seems very loving. They
yeah.
still very attracted to each other, obviously, like
Exactly.
that kind of
It's what
stuff.
was
So
odd.
that's definitely a weird comment. So it'll be interesting to see throughout the rest of the season. And I don't know how many seasons Apple TV has planned for Dark Matter, and that's interesting. And maybe our listeners can like let me know if I'm diving in the wrong way and it's going to waste our time. But I think it's interesting when we get into this Walter White stuff. Evil J goes to OGJ and he says,
Yeah.
Wait, we're clarifying this now. Jason and
"What?
then Evil J.
Okay, so
We
don't
got it because
say okay."
yeah. I want the
All right,
J.
so then
I'm
let me
I'm
just
using the
start.
J
Yeah.
to isolate the two.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Evil J and Jason. All right, so yeah, so what I'm basically trying to say is that with Jason, I would be very interested to see if he has that Walter White tendency. Like if the Jason that we know from our original timeline, when he goes to the other timeline, is it going to be an entire show like we saw in the trailer where he really does just want to get home?
Hmm.
Or is it going to be like a character piece where while he's on that other side, when Evil Jay tells him, like, hey man, I'm
Yeah.
changing your life. Is it actually going to be like, like I'm actually getting what I want here? I am the CEO. I am the big dog. And is that going to change his character at all? Again, it could be something where the people who read the book are like, hey, man, it's nothing. It's about him
Yeah.
trying to get
Yeah.
home.
Hey,
So stop
Yeah.
talking about it. But it's interesting. It's
I
definitely
could see
interesting
it.
to think about.
Yeah, I could see it for sure. Another interesting thing to think about, Schrodinger's cat.
Mm-hmm.
Like you
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, when we get the scene of him teaching, that's just for me, I just think of Dark.
Of
Yes.
course. How could you not? And
Like, yeah.
this is like billed as like I said it earlier. It's kind of like the quintessential like summary of what quantum of like a quantum mechanic concept that is sold in almost every sci-fi show. It's like this idea where until you measure something, it's in both states of matter. But like, so that's the whole idea of the show. There's going to be the two universes. Like until you look into one of them, one way, the other one the other way. And then it kind of resulted in this cause and effect thing. And it's cool to see. And there's so much symbolism all around, both in like just how the show's set up and like I'm seeing pictures in the background that is supposed to be it's supposed to be this whole superposition idea, right? So they're going to lean so into this. And you're right, Jimmy. Like I don't know like is that it? Like are we already like it's just going to be a very simple concept where we're trying to get home and it's just like the Schrodinger cat explains the two different universes, or is it going to get way more complicated and there's going to be like 5 seasons? Like who knows?
Right, right.
I'm leaning towards I'm getting the vibe that it's probably like 2 to 3, maybe 2 to 3 seasons.
I don't think the book's that long. I feel like it could only maybe it's only going to be one season.
That
That's
would
what I
be
was
very
saying.
interesting.
And
Yeah.
the thing about it though, the crazy thing is that if the creator writer of the book is the showrunner, he could expand on his own
Mm-hmm.
material if it
Yeah.
needs to go longer. But
That's true.
say, the book is like you said, point A to point B. I'm trying to get home and Evil J is actually just Evil J. He's the antagonist. We could totally get into the whole like, is Evil J even evil? I mean, they're showing him kind of to us in this pilot as like, hey man, he like took over and he's banging your wife. Like he doesn't seem very nice, like he's not. But
Yeah.
I mean,
But
you
maybe
don't
he's going through his
know.
own things.
Yeah, you don't know. You have no idea. Like, how much are we going to get into these two characters? Are we going to get one Jason that we think is the protagonist and he's Walter White, and the other Jason, it could just be gray. And if we're talking about Breaking Bad, it could be gray matter, dude. A
Yeah.
little
Mm-hmm.
gray matter
Hey,
action.
hey, hey,
Mm-hmm.
hey.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so only other thing I think to mention in these scenes, at least for me, is that his friend Ryan, aka Jimmy Simpson, says he won the Pavia. At this point, we don't know what that is, but we learn later it's just a very prestigious award in
Right.
science. I looked this up online. This seems to be a made up thing
Okay.
for the
Okay.
book.
Figured.
Pavia as a place is both a province and a city in Italy. It's where Albert Einstein's dad settled down to have like an electrical like magnetism business that failed spectacularly. That's like
Okay.
the only thing I could think of. He wrote like one letter and like somewhat scientific thing while he was there. The Einstein connection is the only thing I could uncover that
No,
would
that's
make
probably what
sense
it
to
is.
this.
Okay.
So that's just a thing. It's just a fake award for
Okay.
this thing. Obviously, it's a very real award in this universe.
Yeah, and we can talk more about Ryan, I guess, when we see him in person in the bar
Yeah.
scene. There's
Yeah.
no
I think,
need
I
to do it
mean,
now.
we can get there. I just think we should call out specifically the storage container. This
Mm-hmm.
was like one of the only scenes that was shot this way too, like super focused, not giving us like the full room at any time. Like we're getting batteries, we have purple goo in this little vial that's put into a canister, and then he's keeping his journal. And I was like literally just like, okay, what does this mean? Journal, family night, question mark. Like I was pausing and like zooming in and like all
Me
this
too.
stuff.
Me
So
too.
yeah, because I was thinking at this point, because I'm spoiled, I guess you could say, by the trailer, of thinking like, okay, he knows, so he's like trying to keep track of all of his days. So if he gets sent to like a different place, then like the other version of him is keeping his own journal and it's
Right.
different than his type of deal. But obviously that's not what came to
And
fruition. But
I thought he did a good job, Evil J, that is like asking the right questions,
Mhm.
unlocking his phone, reading the text so he was prepared with the ice cream. Like all of that stuff was like good and obviously thought out. The question is time 1 to 1 between
Mhm.
universes? Like that's a thing because we find out later from Amanda, right?
Yes.
We find out later from Amanda that he was gone for over a year, right? 14 months, I think, is what
14
she ends up
months.
saying. So
Yep.
has he been in this world tracking him for 14 months, or is there that time dilation issue?
Yeah.
That's going to be a question we need to have. And then I'm throwing this out there now just because we're freeballing it and I do what I want. Is they mentioned that there was a lot of people that actually traveled
Yes.
across, and he was the only one that came back. So now that's going to be fun for podcasting reasons because is Ryan the other Ryan, or like like we always
Yeah.
have the questions about is this a person from the evil universe, and it's probably going to bother our listeners that we're going to keep saying evil,
Well,
but
for
that's
now.
just how we're going to do it until we get
Yeah.
more information. Yeah, it could be like you're saying, like we could be looking at our main character Jason and he is the evil one in the end. Who knows,
Yeah. You
but
have no idea. Yeah.
it's just fun for podcasting, those type of things where there is that added level of mystery constantly going on. Is this person, because our Jason might even meet somebody from the other universe
Well,
at any
yeah.
point, so there's just a lot going on. So it's cool that we got this scene, and hopefully I like the idea of time being 1 to 1. We don't need to worry about time. I'd rather just worry about the dimensions, and
Right. Right.
the idea that he's been there for 14 months tracking him, keeping his schedule is a really cool idea. So
Oh my, that's so funny because I literally read this scene the exact wrong way, where I read this as this was Jason like splitting off his time to like try to create this discovery to like use his
So
life in a positive way because he was like fed up with himself. That's
That
so
is
funny. I didn't
hilarious.
realize that was Evil Jay
Oh,
in the
well, wait, did
storage
I read it
container.
wrong?
No. So, okay, let's talk about this because I was
Oh,
literally going to bring this up right before Kyle said that. So, my original take was that I was fully on Kyle's side, that I thought this was Jason trying to, on the side, make something of his life because he feels like Walter White-ish, you know?
Yeah.
So I thought he has this crazy creation
yeah.
that he was developing, experimenting, etc., and he was keeping it a total secret. He was keeping track of calendars just to make sure he wasn't like screwing anything up with his family side of things because again, this is important to him.
Yeah.
Evil
All that
Jay,
money.
yeah, Evil Jay later in the season or in the episode says we have the motivation for why he stayed and didn't become, I guess, Evil Jay. Like why Jason stayed with the family. He told his wife that he would rather make memories with her than be stuck in a sterile lab his entire life. So
Mhm.
I fully thought that deep down, because we get that answer. Jason gives the answer to Evil Jay when he's down and he's beat up. He says, "Tell me, what do you think? What are your thoughts?" And latch on to that when shit gets tough. And he says, "I wish I made more of my life." So I thought he was doing that on the
Yeah.
side. That's crazy. And then when I was like thinking about it, I was like, is this one of those things where again they're showing us the clone slash alternate version, not clone, alternate version before the reveal happens, and that's the one quote unquote reveal or whatever, like
Yeah.
of the episode. And I think now that we're like talking it out loud, it's Evil Jay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean,
I
I think
agree.
that's what it is because it just seems like that's like, he opens the box later in the episode and it's shining and glowing, and it just seems like that this purple stuff that he has is the dark
Dark
matter,
matter.
whatever you
Yeah.
want to call it, that
Mhm.
drives his ability to go between these universes or
Oh,
dimensions, however
Yeah.
you want to say it.
Yeah,
dude.
that just makes sense. And I think the money too, like the way it was set up feels very like guy hiding from things and like keeping himself afloat type of deal.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, and then again, I hate to do, and I don't want to do this anymore, I guess, but with the trailers, I wanted to rewatch the trailer after I watched episode one because I wanted to be like, what are they actually giving us? Because I only watched the trailer once, and I fully agree with you guys. I don't want to know anything. So I watched the trailer so like surface level just to be like, all right, this looks good. We're gonna pod
Yeah.
on it, and let me just forget everything else. So I wanted to see after I watched episode one, like what kind of information they were giving us. And obviously, there's a scene in the trailer where Jennifer Connelly's Daniela follows Evil Jay to the storage unit and things like that. So it just seems like, yes, it is Evil Jay's storage unit. And it's something that you don't realize at the time
Mhm.
because you don't
Yeah.
have the reveal yet that there's two Jays,
Oh, look
Jasons.
at
Right.
us. We were like, we saw the trailers. Like, we know everything that happens in this episode.
And
Like,
they got
whatever.
us. I
Hey
mean,
man,
Luke's smart.
I
Luke's
read it
smart as
right.
shit.
That's
He's
true.
yeah.
That's true.
But
Luke's got his
honestly,
dark goggles on.
dude, this is gonna be so fun to talk about. You're just like minute talk right there, and you brought up all the concepts. Like this is just when a show is like this, I just feel like these types of shows have the highest ceilings of anything
Hmm.
besides epic fantasy for me. Like that's it. Like it's either epic fantasy or crazy mind-bending sci-fi, and just everything you went through. You just like within our last 5 minutes, we just talked through like 20 different concepts, and
Yep.
all of them seem realistic to me. Like after this conversation already,
Yeah.
like damn, dude.
It's
It's gonna be
also, I
so
Yeah.
think, my
fun.
expectations, it totally impacted my like note taking. Like moving into just like them having their family night dinner and then him going to the bar before he gets abducted. I wrote down so many things. Like she convinced him to go, very intimate hug. But yet like they seem to have good chemistry, but she wants to avoid her family, question mark. And then there's a car following him, question mark. And then this zoom in on the sign, like the tavern tap, like this seems
Yeah.
ominous. Like they obviously want us to know that and things like that. And then I'm like, oh, full bottle of Macallan full cast, 1824. Look up the price. I'm like, oh,
Guy's
that's
getting
kind of
hammered.
expensive. Yeah. And then the bartender reaches over, they kind of zoom in on his like Illuminati tattoo. And I'm like, okay, noted. That's interesting.
I noticed the sign, I noticed the tattoo. So a lot of things that you're pointing out, they definitely use the
Yeah.
cinematography to highlight. So that's
Yeah.
by design. And I thought
Yeah.
the music score was pretty good too, especially the end when it starts going
Yeah.
all rap. Like that was awesome.
And
Agreed.
I
Agreed.
think the things that again, pure speculation that feels like I'm walking away from this scene with are this Claire, Edward, and Ivan character. They just were so weird to me. They stuck out, and especially again the way it was shot, like that it was their full face on the
Yeah, right
screen,
up. Yeah.
and then like just kind of like blowing Ryan, and then being like very unimpressed by Jason's
Oh,
treatment at
you're a
Lakeview College, yeah, type of
college
deal,
guy?
and then Ryan brings up this Andrew Darab character, and Luke kind of finished this gear turning when he mentioned the line where like multiple people went in with Evil J and haven't returned. Like I'm thinking maybe those are like these characters. Not that
For
these
sure.
are the people that went in and are inhabiting the universe, but like their
The other
counterparts.
version. Right, right, right.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But
I like that.
did they not? I should have. I maybe I have it written down somewhere. But did they not say that in the other universe, like towards the end, that he like Ryan's not in the picture at all, right?
That's fair. That's
Well,
fair. But maybe they're just
so
impressed with that version. They then gravitated to Evil J.
It's
so
definitely possible. Yeah.
yes. And I don't know if we want to jump there yet, but the only thing I did notice is that when he says Ryan, because they say, who were you with? Like, who was the last person you were with at the bar? And he says Ryan, and he says the whole name.
Mhm.
It looks like the guy in the background kind of like his hands are up, and then he like puts it down, and it looks like, and then the two, Amanda and Leighton, look at each other, and it almost looks like they're like, oh shit, or they're like either not happy about it or like a sadly just surprised kind of
Mhm.
thing, where maybe he is something in that other world, other dimension that I don't know if it's necessarily going to be like he's a bad guy, but something about him in that other dimension seems like it disappointed or surprised people when he said the name.
I
I'm
could
now.
see
Oh,
it.
sorry.
No,
Go ahead.
I'm just gonna say I could see it being that like they were friends also in that world, in Evil J's world, and they had some type of dust up whatever, because I mean they almost kind of did in this world and in Jason's world with the Pavia Award, because he was like, ah, fuck it, like
Yeah.
he wanted to win it type of deal. He wasn't even going to go to the celebration unless his wife made it to. So it seems like their relationship is, it seems like Ryan is very invested in their relationship and how what it means to him, and Jason is not at all. So if you take Jason and make him the Evil J version where he's so career driven, I could easily see those two characters having like a very emotional split in their relationship.
So Jesus, man, Theory Town is just going crazy right now. And we, like you're saying, Jimmy, we could be reading into this and this could not be that type of show. But now I'm thinking, what if that look that they had, that Leighton and Amanda have, is because, oh shit, Ryan was one of the volunteers that went in first and he saw him over there. So maybe there's a world where the Ryan that we see at the bar is from the evil universe and he wants to work with this Jason so badly so he can come together and make the dark matter to send him back, possibly.
Mm,
Like that could be something,
maybe
because
he
he was
knows so
very,
much it helped
he
him
was
win the
So
award.
potentially, yeah,
let me
like,
just I want to
yeah.
shut some things down just because of the stupid
No.
trailer. Yeah, I know it sucks, but I don't want people to be like, guys, you just said you watched the trailer and then you're not. So in the trailer, it's Jason that's narrating like the premise of the show pretty much. He's basically reading the synopsis, and it's because you find out that he is telling this synopsis to Ryan, and I believe this would be in that other dimension. So say we're in episode 1 and Jason goes to the other dimension. He thinks he has a wife, a son. He's saying, what the hell's going on? You guys are screwing with me, blah blah blah. He is telling that to Ryan, like in
Okay.
a apartment house setting. And then Jason says, like, what would you do if you heard that? And then Ryan would say, like, I think you're crazy or something, right?
Mhm.
So
Okay.
I think Ryan exists in that dimension, and he's not flipped unless, like, again, you can literally steal that Ryan and flip him again. I mean,
Yeah, I
you can
guess
do
we'll
whatever the
see.
hell you want, you know.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure I say that, because again, a lot of people are huge into trailers and dissect them. There's like
Mhm.
YouTube channels just for that. So I don't want to be like acting like I didn't watch it. So
I mean,
um
me and Luke said we did, and we clearly didn't really. So
yeah, well
I
that's the
might
thing.
have
If I
watched it
didn't
for a second, like when you
yeah,
originally mentioned the
but
show, and then that was
yeah.
it.
exactly. Like if you watch it the way I watched it and you guys watch it surface level to say, hey, are you going to cover this? You don't know what you're watching when it comes to that point, because you have to watch episode 1 and then rewatch the trailer to realize that it's Jason who's beat up
That's true.
telling Ryan hey man, something
Yeah.
crazy happened. What do you think about it? You could just assume that's part later in the season and it's normal dimension. It's the regular OG dimension. You have no
Yeah.
idea unless you're going back. And I only went back because I just wanted to see what was actually
Yeah.
revealed to everybody.
Well, I could see
Okay.
like Evil World Ryan believing Jason because Evil Jay and Evil World Ryan had this big split up, and he's like, "Why is he coming to talk to me? Like this is not like him. Like clearly
Yeah,
there's this
yeah,
huge
that
shift
that's
type of deal." And then that is kind of the catalyst for him believing. I could see
and
that. An
and then you
interesting
also
thing too. I'm so sorry, but one
no
last
no
point I want to make on Ryan is that I thought it was, and again, maybe I'm looking too much into it. It feels very obvious that Ryan is a neuroscientist.
Hmm.
His work was identifying the prefrontal cortex as the conscious generator. He wants to create a neurotech company. Jason works in physics, and the
hmm
company that he creates in the evil world, Evil Jay's company, is like a propulsion, like rocket fuel type of company. Like it doesn't really seem like there's any level of overlap with
yeah.
neurotechnology and neuroscience. So that was just something
And
that
also,
maybe
just
not
to
red
add,
flag,
we
but
like we know for a fact it's not going to be something to do with consciousness, like sending your consciousness to the other body, because we have the case of two bodies physically there. So you're actually being transported. So that's going to be
And
interesting when we see how that actually happens.
right, and you see the injuries on both bodies have
Mhm.
flipped.
Yeah. So you're
So we
physically
know it's your
crossing
physical
over.
body. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
And
good point.
it's like eerily similar to gray matter, where you have Walter White and you have Elliot and you have Jason and you have Ryan. Because Ryan specifically says, hey, man, without your notes, this would have
Hmm.
never happened. And he also says, this should have been you.
Hmm.
Now, the original phone call, props to Jason if he was faking because he did seem genuinely like, oh, dude, that's freaking awesome. Maybe after he hung up the phone, he was like, one of those kind of things where he was a little disappointed. And you could see he's a little off after, but he seemed genuinely happy for his buddy. And
Hmm.
then, it didn't seem on character 100% to me that he didn't want to go to the celebration because he seemed so excited for him in the first phone call. But maybe like I am just barking down the wrong tree just because is it barking up or barking down?
I think you bark up. I think you
I'm
bark up.
barking up,
You're
dude.
barking up the
I'm,
wrong tree,
I'm
bro.
Yeah,
barking.
yeah.
I was up top on the tree and now I'm
Yeah.
down.
Well,
But
everything's
but
flipped. Everything's
I'm
flipped.
barking places. Okay, so wherever I'm barking, maybe it is like too close to the gray matter scenario where like
Yeah.
maybe they aren't really going to get into that just
Two
because it does
things.
seem very very like copied where Jason could straight up at some point be like, bro, you literally used my notes to get your award. You're nothing without me. I should be you. I mean, it's fully Walter White and Elliot.
It's two things I want to point out off of what you just said there. The first thing, which is just funny to me, is like this is like 10 minutes into the episode, and you're saying like it's not on character. Like you have the
This is
understanding of
totally
his
my
Yeah,
boy
he
character.
knows.
Jason. My freaking boy
Yeah, he
Jason would
knows.
not act that way.
Yeah,
Maybe Evil
exactly.
Jay would, but my boy Jason would not do that.
And then if second thing, this is just for you, Jimmy, is if we have any listeners out there that are coming over from the Shogun podcast, yeah, we did a lot of Game of Thrones parallels there. This is going to be the Breaking Bad parallel show. So just be ready
Yeah,
for all those references. Granted, you did cover most of them already, so like there
Yeah.
I
might
think
not
we're
be many
good.
more.
I don't think there
Yeah.
should be too much
I
more.
think we're good. Yeah.
I
We'll see.
barked all over that tree, and I think we're good now. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So I think we could move on from the kind of bar scene. We can get into this abduction. Again, I don't want to like keep reiterating it, but we know at this point when we're watching it that this is another version of him.
yes,
I think they did a good job of if you didn't know, it's somewhat, I don't want to say easy to find out, but the way he's saying like, what's your passcode? Oh, father's birthday reversed, right? And he knows about Ryan, like it's, and then with the like, you wouldn't believe you if you told me type of stuff. So I feel like they
yes.
gave enough of good hints if you were paying attention, but
Mhm.
it was difficult, I think, to like feel all of the tension in this scene.
And this is something I wrote down, which I know was a dumb note as I was like watching this. But if you blindly give this show to somebody, don't let them know the premise and just say, trust me, watch it. Like there's a world where you think that could be Ryan until you see Ryan at the bar flirting with that girl that he was talking to.
Yep.
Because I was writing, I like wrote it down. I'm like, well, obviously it's not. it's got to be Evil J. Like
Yeah.
there's no other person it could be. But it would be, it would have been an interesting take if they did make it somehow even Evil Ryan or that Ryan who was pissed because he's kind of didn't say yes to the San Francisco job offer in the bar. But either way, it's not even worth talking about because it's Evil J. But we can take this to directly to the warehouse that he ends up bringing him to, and they get in that fight. Evil J gets injured on his arm that Daniela sees in the end. So like that's like yellow flag number one because he didn't mention that. So, but
Right.
then he gets drugged up. My question is, do you think the drugging of him is needed? Like, do you think that was just like knock him out and then we're gonna send him to the other universe, or do you think that's part of the process of
Like he
being
was
able to
injecting part of the purple shit into him, maybe because we saw
potentially?
that it was being put into like like you said, Kyle, like some kind of canister capsule thing where you put it in, lock it down, and it could be. I don't know
I
though.
like
I
that
don't
idea of
know.
like
He
whatever
said that
dark
it's going to
matter
take you out
is.
though. He said it's going to just put you to sleep. So I don't know.
I don't
True.
know.
That
I
could be a
feel like
side effect though. Like getting dark matter into you knocks you out and you wake up in the other universe. I don't know. Maybe I'm just reading into it and it was literally just like chloroform or whatever. It just knocks him out or
Yeah.
something.
yeah, I feel like I'm more inclined to believe it was just to knock him out to like ensure that he can get him into because we see technically the first scene is Evil Jay walking out of that box in the warehouse.
Mm.
Mhm.
So I don't. I think maybe he was trying to get him not to see the box, but he gets combative. I don't really know. I think though it was just he just needled him to knock him
Be
out,
able
so
to
he's
control him.
pliable. I'm sure he could just
Yeah.
drag him into the box and put the purple goo
And
into
that's
the
fine.
box.
That's all it has
Yeah.
to be.
And
Yeah.
then kind of send him there. Yeah, I
Mhm.
think again though, just funny looking at my notes of like everything. I was like, Jalisco Electronics Store. Like, okay, noted. You're not getting that one past me. Like Jalisco, okay. And then the same thing. Like he has that little pad, Evil J. This is, and it has the company symbol on it. And in one of the first scenes when Jason and the son leave the house, they have this like little wooden box outside their house, like storage box that has these like hand hearts, two hands
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
create a
Yeah.
heart, and then the little feet prints in the middle. I'm like, oh, that kind of looks similar. Like, let me write that down. And then I zoomed in later. It's just a V in like a globe. I'm like, okay, you got me there.
Hey
You got me
man,
there.
that's how we catch shit. Sometimes we're not going to get anything, but one
Yeah,
time you're going to get something and you're going to
yeah,
blow everybody's mind.
that's true.
Mhm.
That's true. And
Mhm.
Jimmy, I like you mentioned it earlier, but I just really like the way he has the conversation with them when he's like, "You can have everything you missed out on. Like I'm
Mhm.
doing this for the both of us," type of deal. And that's just that concept gets me going. I like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
concept where like they've had the two different almost opposite versions of their lives, and then halfway through their lives they're going to switch and see how it goes. That's just very cool.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now, when we're watching this and we know it's Evil J just because of the trailer, the synopsis, etc., are you guys assuming that what he's taking him to is some way to flip? Like, did you think that was the end game to
Yeah,
flip their
I
lives?
figured he was
Yeah. Okay.
dragged
Yeah.
into the cube that we saw in the
Right.
first scene.
Cool. Cool.
But it has nothing to do with science. Like he's not trying to send him back so that his company can learn more things about this. It's all about just
Pure
keeping his
selfishness.
life. Yeah, exactly. That's where the evil's coming from, is because he's taking over his life. Because he could have tried to sell this in a way that I'm helping both of us out. Like, you're going to go there, you're going to see what it's like. You can always come back. Clearly, I'm a case study of it working. So he could have sold it in like that type of way, but instead he just goes pure, this is my life now. Like, get the hell out of here, right? Like that.
Yeah.
That's where the
Yeah.
evil's rooted
I'm
in. And I think
also
that's a thing. So,
now my like wheel like he's been gone for so long. I'm of a mind where the things are happening. I'm just going to put this on the board. The things are happening kind of at the same time. And he's been gone for so long because he's been looking for the right level of apathy and general contentedness version of himself.
Okay. So he's studying himself just to
I,
be
yeah.
himself, and like that goes with the whole setting the notes on the calendar. Like, what's today? What's
mhm.
tomorrow? What does he do on Wednesday? What does
Mhm.
his wife do on Friday with her training, etc.?
Yeah. Like, I don't think he just like hit the jackpot on the first one and was like, I'm just going to take up whoever's life this is. Because I think there's obviously aspects of Jason's life that he
Right.
likes and wants.
And I don't know again if this is trailer talk or whatever, but it seems to me that he's literally choosing Jason's life because he ended up having this family life with Daniela.
yeah,
Mhm.
He's focusing on Daniela. I mean, he goes
I'm very
after like he
curious
knows
of
her.
what the like quote unquote nexus point is. Yeah, where like did this? I don't know if I'm using that right now that I say it out loud, but like, did Evil Jay date Daniela in the past, and then their lives split because he chose work?
Yeah,
Type of
that I
deal.
mean,
Like,
that's
That's
where
cool.
my
is the
Like
belief.
yeah?
that
Like, where are their branches
that
happening?
conversation that our Jason has where he says, I'd choose you, could have literally been where Evil Jay says, I have ambition, sorry.
I
And
think
that's when
that's
they
it.
split and
Full
boom.
stop.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's
and then
completely
maybe
the
these
moment.
other people didn't come back because they were like, "Fuck, I like
This
this
is
version
sweet.
of my life." Yeah,
Yeah,
let me just kill
this
the other
house.
version of me,
This
like
life
Rick
is
and Morty,
sweet.
basically.
Yeah.
Just I'll just assume their role essentially. Type deal. Okay, so now we've kind of completely shifted to Evil World. Jason kind of wakes up. He's in what we find out is Velocity Labs, this company that he co-founded and co-created. He's in this quarantine room. I mean, geez, we meet Amanda. She comes in. He gets this little video interview. He begins to freak out and he kind of runs away. I think we talk about everything up until maybe he's in the house with Amanda. We just
Okay.
learned some things. I know we've covered most of this, but just if there's
Yeah.
anything any meat left on the bone of these scenes that we want to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, right away with Amanda, as soon as she sees him, she hugs him.
Yeah.
That's his counterpart in this world, and she's very disappointed that he doesn't know who the heck she is. But she says, like, "Oh, that's okay. We'll figure this out." The thing that I wanted to bring up earlier that I didn't get to is when it comes to this evil world, if that's how we're still going to call it until we have a better name for it,
Yeah.
they know okay, maybe they don't. So I'm trying to speak this out with you guys. Let's talk it out. Do they know where he's going? Like, do they know that he's going to an alternate universe where there's other versions of him? Like, if he comes back not himself, why can't they just be like, oh, maybe it's the wrong Jason? Because it should be so obvious to her that this is not like I mean, when he says, I have a wife, I have a son, if they know that there's another dimension, another world that he
Mhm.
is visiting, she should be like, oh shit, this might not be you. Or
So
maybe something, again, flipped in the process. I mean, as far as they know, it could have killed everybody else. It could have done anything bad to anybody else. And the only person who made it back is Jason. And they're testing him for all this stuff, assuming that there could be problems.
mhm.
So,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just
yeah.
wondering
Like,
why they.
how is that not on the protocol sheet of like, or even like in like the pre travel briefing where it's like this could happen, and
Right.
For
here are the
sure.
signs.
But the thing I want to just bring up, I guess, at least, like you mentioned, like he was checked for radiation, diseases, just
Yep.
all these things. They were testing his vitals, like everything. I think memory loss is a very valid concern where
Oh, yeah. I mean, she
not
says it.
enough, yeah, and not enough happens in the lab scene for sure. They maybe should have thought that it was a possibility, but after he goes home and has the freak out like, and to Amanda and like I have a kids, her next scene better be this is the wrong one because I completely agree. Now it's just to me it should be obvious to the scientist
That's
because
true.
he's looking
Right.
at his picture of getting the award on the wall like he's saying this is my kid's room, like where's my wife. That's
Yeah.
way too much past the line of memory. So
Right.
I don't want
And
to
those are
put a
new
lot of
memories.
pressure. I'm not trying to like raise the stakes of Amanda's next scene, but to me, like the next science scene that we get from Leighton and maybe like whenever they're talking, like it better
Yeah.
be good writing and be like, yo, like this is not our Jason.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I could think of is that he is the mastermind, like we know. He could have another motive where specifically only he knows what could be on the other side. Maybe he tells them that it's trans. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It
Yeah.
just seems like they probably should know what the deal is because if they're testing him for all this stuff, it's some kind of transportation, something other dimensions. They should know. So yeah, I agree, Luke. I think that it's going to be a very important next scene with Amanda,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll see. I mean, she could become a helper, like a protagonist helper, and realize like, okay, this is the wrong Jason. Let me help you get back. But we'll see.
Yeah, and speaking of like different motives for like Jason having the knowledge, Evil Jay having the knowledge of what's on the other side, to me, I don't necessarily buy it. I think it's more a victim of or like a result of him being there for 14 months, learning about his life and then trying to take over because they say
Okay.
that Leighton is the CEO. So like anything that Evil Jay knew because he's the chief science officer, so maybe not, but like you would think that anything he knew also Leighton would know about. So like if it was like this whole plan, I'm gonna make this whole company to jump dimensions and steal this life. I don't think it went that deep until he got over there, is my
I mean,
guess right now.
that would be like supervillain
Yes,
level,
yes, yeah.
like
Yeah,
type
and he
stuff.
is Evil
Yeah,
J.
yeah. I mean, he is Evil J. So I
Yeah.
want to say that if I had to put it on the board, I feel like he went into this with the plan to get rid of his current life. Like I
Yeah.
don't think he like went like was like, okay, I'm traveling and I'm just gonna see what happens and come back and then move on. Like, and then while he was there, he was like, fuck, I like this other life better. It feels like he kind of went with this goal. That's how
Okay.
And let me
that's how I'm currently reading it.
bark all over that tree one more time because
Okay.
again we have a trailer scenario where we do see him and Amanda um going into the cube, and she basically says we have a problem because there's a gajillion dimensions, right? She says there's a million versions of you. How are we going to find the one you need to get back to? So I don't know if that means that Evil J can literally like look into a specific dimension and know,
Oh yeah.
like there has to be
Maybe
a
he's got the
reason
wrist pad that like
and I
just
think again, this is a quote in the
he's
trailer,
got
and
a
I
loud
can't
pose.
remember. Again, everything's blending. I shouldn't have watched the trailer right after watching episode one, but um, there's like a quote that says like he chose you for a reason. What's the reason, right? How
Okay.
does he choose this Jason? Like, how can he see into dimensions? Like, our Jason now on this other evil dimension side of things doesn't have this knowledge, so he's going to go into this cube and be like, "There's a gajillion." Versions. I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. But Evil J, I guess he's the one who created it, so he could be like, I don't know, visiting slash looking. I don't know if he could visit because I feel like it would be too big of a deal if he visited because this is a big deal when he went
Yeah.
14 months. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there a way to look into dimensions? I don't know.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to find out. Like what's his kind of like North Star, what's his directional, what's his compass,
Right.
how is he
And
like what instruments is he using to do it, or is he just free surfing?
Yeah.
something else that I'm just kind of clicking with now is like they could have just done the two dimensions and that's all that exists. But if you're going to say that there's all these different dimensions, maybe every single dimension's difference has to deal with that nexus point. Is that what we're going to say, Kyle? I don't know.
Sure.
Like
For now.
some sort of decision. Like there is a universe where every single decision that was made went one way or the other, like back to the superposition thing. So maybe he specifically sought this universe out based on the decision of do I lean into my work or family. So like
Yeah.
that could be the connecting vein of why Evil J went to this one. Because if there's an infinite, yeah, what's the like that kind of
And
makes
you
the
can
idea of superposition a little bit weird and trying to connect it to this. If there's just a million dimensions, but who knows? Maybe that's the reason.
Yeah, I mean he could be a janitor and 75% of them.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He
Not
could
that
be
that's a bad
anything.
profession, but it's just obviously this Evil J wants this some very specific things out of this new world he's going to.
Yeah, you convinced
Right.
me. I
And
think that's
it does make it very interesting to think about if he's evil or not when we call him Evil J, because he in his mind apparently got everything in his
Yeah.
evil world, right? He's a CEO. He got quote unquote what he want, or I guess not CEO, chief scientist.
CSO. Yeah.
Yeah, CSO,
Co-founder too. Jesus.
co-founders, whatever. He basically got everything on that side of the ambitious scale. And he goes to Jason and he's like, "Hey man, you wanted a piece of that, didn't you? All right, I'll give it to you." And then, but really, he knows that if he gave it to Jason, that Jason probably would get the taste of it and say, "I want Daniela back."
Yeah,
So
yeah. Something about that
if
Daniela.
all Jasons just want to end up being, and again, I don't know if they're all different,
all
but
Jasons want Daniela.
all Jasons love Daniela.
I actually like that. I like that idea.
Yeah,
That's
like
cute
that.
and romantic.
They're all. It ends up being that all Jasons love the family life and their wife, and that's
Yeah.
their point of living. Then that kind of does make Evil J evil.
Yeah.
Would you go as far to say that Jason is a family guy?
I was just,
Oh,
he's like
you
the
said it.
ultimate wife guy and the ultimate family guy. That's so funny. Okay, these groups of scenes, the only thing that I had that I wanted to mention was Luke, you called this out earlier too. While he's in the waiting room, they have all of those posters involved there. This was another like feather in the cap of the Einstein connection, is that a lot of like some of the posters are general and special relativity posters. I found them on the internet. They're pretty cheap. So here's your little plug for if you want them on your own walls. This guy, Justin Van Genderen is Chicago based. That's why I was like, okay, they totally looked at this guy and he makes a lot of really cool prints. I might buy some for my new apartment. So yeah, if you're interested in what you saw on the show, you should check out Justin Van Genderen. That's a completely free promo for that guy.
Sponsor us,
He
bro.
makes very interesting prints. A lot of very interesting space prints too. So
Nice.
Cool.
stuff. Because I was like, okay, where's the hint? Like, what else? Like, there's entropy
Yeah,
poster.
yeah.
Okay, noted. General relativity noted. Special relativity noted. Okay, what
Yeah.
else we get? And I couldn't find any of the other ones, but
Mhm.
we're looking. We're looking, audience. Don't worry.
Damn
So let's
right.
And I was like, when this was actually, and I'm so sorry, the last part, I was genuinely, maybe not surprised, but like, oh, when they had the same address. Because I thought there was a chance he would go in and be like a different family. He'd be like, what the fuck? But they had the same address. They live in the same house, even though they have wildly different professions. So that was interesting.
So the house is the same, but it's the different people living in there, different decorations, different setup.
Yeah.
It's crazy that it is. Is that a weird thing? Is it
I don't
something
know.
weird
I
that we
guess
need to
maybe
talk about?
Daniela makes buku bucks because obviously Evil J makes buku bucks to like.
Right.
So I'm just trying to like maybe their household incomes. Well, his household is a household of one, but like their incomes are similar, or there's something about that house I'm interested in as well. We'll kind of see.
Is
So-
that a cliche to the premise of the show that they have to make it that he
That
goes
they have
to
the
his
same
own house?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because
I was thinking
you
of
would
like
think,
this, yeah, like the economic ramifications of that. Of like, is he just buying a house under his means, Evil J? Because there's something about it that speaks to him, or like, is Daniela so rich that they have this house? I don't know.
Yeah, because you would think that the whole point is that different decisions are made.
Yeah.
And if he's with Amanda versus Daniela, what would make them make the same exact choice when buying this house?
Yeah, and they're not married. Him and Amanda.
Yes, Amanda's
That's-
not married, and you
I
can
was
see
gonna
it in
bring
her
that up.
eyes that she's upset when he says "my wife," and he says, "You don't have a wife."
Yeah.
So my
So-
question is, where's OG Amanda? Is she going to be relevant? Like, is there going to be some interaction in, like, maybe Daniela seeks her out in some way and like they work together? Because Amanda seemed like I'm not getting evil vibes at all from this company. Like, I'm
No.
not thinking, not yet, at least. But I
No.
mean, I guess they are like chasing him down with like armed guards and like trying to like strap him in. But like
Fair.
Leighton and Amanda both seem trying to like they're trying to help him. And also, you got to think about it, like. They have no idea what the ramifications of pulling somebody from a different universe. You
Oh,
can even,
yeah.
like it could be creating like atom mismatches and black holes could be like blowing up the whole universe now because you're doing this. Like it's a reasonable thing to say, all right, for 24, 48 hours, you got to stay here.
Oh yeah,
Like,
oh yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So I'm not
I
getting
mean,
evil yet from the company, but it
Yeah.
could turn that way.
I mean,
one thing,
Evil
too,
J
that-
is the co-founder. Luke, it's evil.
Yeah,
Company's evil.
Yeah, that's a nice transitive property there. Easy peasy. But
Yeah.
another thing I want to mention too is Jason knows Leighton, not this version of Leighton,
Mhm.
but knew Leighton at some point. So I'm interested in that relationship from the original world, like OG Leighton, OG Jason. How do they know each other? What's that about? Type of deal, and that kind of almost insinuates that maybe OG Amanda is a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it could easily be the exact scenario that we discussed where maybe OG Leighton gave this proposition to OG Jason and said, "Hey, let's start this company. Let's do this damn thing." And then he chose Daniela.
Yeah.
That's how long ago it has to be. He says, "I haven't seen you in so long. I haven't seen you in years." So you have to assume him and Danielle have been together for a long time by the age of Charlie. So it could be that Leighton in the OG world is the one who they were going to work together, start a company, and they just
Mhm.
didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
can
don't have
see it.
anything
at
else
this point,
for
yeah,
this
I can see it.
storyline.
Yeah, the only thing I have left is just Evil J returning home.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
those-
which is weird as
Those
shit,
sequence
man.
of scenes, it was weird because he is like clearly in awe of the home.
Yeah.
Like, thankfully she's doing the dishes. Thankfully for him, because he like walks in like a weirdo, like he doesn't live there. Type of deal. But then kind of recovers when he's like super intimate with her, and she's kind of thinking like, this is odd. Like, why?
Yes.
And he's like, I didn't drink, and she's like, okay. Type of. So they have a
So-
lot of interesting, I think, lines here.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be something where he kisses her and she thinks he kisses different. Like I thought it was going to be a scenario where, because she says like, "What's wrong? Like, what? There's something wrong here. There's something off." Right after they kiss, and it could easily just be like, "What are you doing? Like, why are you getting all my shit? I'm pissed at you." But I was like, "Oh, that would be freaking interesting too. Like if Jason's kissed differently." Or...
This guy is like a drive. Like he wants Daniela, which
Mm-hmm.
Jason, I'm going to say it already, love him to death, but he doesn't feel like he has that level of like sexual aggression towards her. So
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's like the kind of
that's a,
things that we
that's
don't
also
want to
like
get
that
into a conversations, but
complacency
like, yeah,
though.
you have Evil Jay coming in, and I already kind of brought it up. Like, so this could just literally be like all this work that he's done is to get back to Danielle, and he's finally gotten back to Daniela. So he's like, rah, I love you, But at the same time, I mean, he's literally another guy going to Daniela, pretending to be her husband, and being like, make out with me right now. It's
Yeah.
just, it's
I took
freaking.
it I took it as like a symbolism or like a way to show that like the differences between Evil Jay and Jason. Jason, like I've said before, he seems very complacent. His life is his life. This is kind of his, stone's throw. This is how it's going. It is what it is. And while this Evil Jay, we know, very ambitious, like type of like he's
Yeah.
gonna if he wants something, he's gonna go get it. So
Mhm.
that seems to be like the juxtaposition between Jason and Daniela's interactions feels like Daniela has the upper hand in all of them, where she
Yeah.
feels like, yeah, let's say she wears the pants in their relationship, while Evil Jay coming in and he's now driving the conversation, he's driving the physical interaction, all that type of stuff. So we
Dude, I'm
shall
watching
see.
episode 2 right now.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
we
I
shall
pulled
let's
up
see
in the
how it goes.
background of this podcast. I've been watching.
and let's also talk about this, which I think now is important after we all discussed this kind of stuff, is he knows the conversation that was had between Jason and Daniela when he's not Jason. He's Evil Jay. And he knows the conversation was had that said, a long time ago we had a conversation. What was it? Now, he made her tell it to him,
Yeah.
but he knows that a conversation was had because maybe in his world a conversation was had and he said the wrong thing.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Now in this world, she spits out the right thing and he says, I stand by it. And now he has his family guy life, you know?
Yeah, there was three things I wrote down that are just my evidence that Evil Jay is just an absolute dog. When he tells her about the Ryan's offer and she says, "What do you like? What do you think?" or whatever, and he says, "Our life is here." I was like, "All right, bro, you literally just got here, first of all."
Yeah.
And then the part when she responds to him that at the end of your life you would rather have memories of me than a sterile lab, and he goes, "And I stand by that still." I was like, "You're a
Yeah.
motherfucker." And then the third one is he's literally a motherfucker, and then he takes her to bed like ASAP. I
Yeah,
was like,
right?
"Oh my god, the OG version, like you're the guy you just kidnapped, drugged, and threw in a multi-dimensional cube is literally running for his life while you're just sliding ASAP into his wife's bed." I was like, "Damn, it's a cruel world."
Yeah, it really is, man. I mean,
Yeah.
that is, yeah, he's deaf a dog, man. It's bad.
Yeah,
It's
I
bad.
mean,
I like talking about this stuff with you guys because I was going to have to outwardly say, how did he know to ask that question? But because we came up with that,
mhm.
maybe there's a fork in the road scenario, it
Yeah,
makes more sense now.
because I even wrote
But
down that feels very ambitious. Like, do you remember what I said to you all those years ago? Like, wow, where are you getting that confidence from? But he obviously
dude,
did it perfectly.
he has a life, quote unquote, with her for however long, and he's gonna be pulling all this shit out of his ass for
Yeah.
like hey, you remember last week when we went to dinner?
Yeah.
Where was it? And he's like, oh fuck, was I paying attention when I was spying on
Yeah.
them at that time? Like,
Mhm.
I
That'll
mean,
be
it's
interesting.
again, bark down that tree, bark it
Yeah.
all over that tree. The trailer does show that she gets suspicious pretty quickly. So,
She
I
needs to.
mean, she was,
That's the only way it'll
yeah,
be interesting in that
Yeah.
storyline. Yeah.
The final thing I will say, because this feels important and I wrote it down, is that Jason's lock screen is Daniela, while Daniela's lock screen is their son.
the young version of the son too, right?
Yes.
That's why I was
So,
actually confused for a second because I thought it was going to be another dimension Daniela because I was like, oh, maybe she has like a kid
mm,
with someone else, or maybe their kid isn't that old yet or something because he
yeah.
was younger. I was like,
Yeah.
well,
So, I
whatever. But
mean,
yeah, that
like we're
is
saying, their Jason and Daniela's relationship and the way it was is she is going to know that something is up with the way that Evil Jay is acting. So
Yeah.
they showed us a lot in this episode of how Daniela and Jason's relationship was, and now we're gonna get the differences are gonna be like we're gonna be able to identify them, I think, a lot easier as we move forward. So that's something I'm excited about.
Question. You
Yeah.
said people are saying. What does that mean?
Who
Did I
said it?
say
Me?
people are saying?
I thought you said that like you were saying you saw like conversations about this online where that can't be a thing yet, right?
Yeah. If I said people are saying, I was just throwing
People
that in
in
there
his
to
own
make
head.
my point
Yeah.
sound more have more credential. I had full little
People
Donald
are
Trump right
saying.
there.
He's
Full little
literally
Donald
like- he's
Trump
like
right there.
Barney.
Everyone's saying, people are saying.
He's
Well,
like
that's true.
he's like Barney from How I Met Your Mother. 87% of the time.
Yeah, exactly. I've
that-
been hearing things. I've been hearing things.
Luke's
was like,
like
"Ah."
lawyered.
My instant thought was like, I want to see conversations about this episode, but that doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, maybe I'm Evil Kyle, Evil K.
Oh, Evil K,
Evil
dude.
K.
Evil
The only
J, Evil
difference
K.
is the season dropped a week ago, so you watched the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yep.
Now you're coming in here to be a good podcaster and predict
Yeah.
That's the
everything.
fork in
Yeah.
the road.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
I
yeah.
what I tell you all those years ago, you know. Yeah, you know.
What'd you tell me back in Iceland all those years ago,
Yeah,
man?
I think it was to wrap this episode up and let's go.
Yeah. I have no problem at all. I have no problem at all calling Evil J, sticking with that for now based on his actions
Yeah.
at the end of this episode. So we're going to stick with Evil J. And if anything changes, we'll let you know. But guys, episode 1 in the books, loving it.
times,
Like we
good
said in the intro, we have the screeners. Thank you to Apple TV Plus. So we will get these episodes out ASAP for you every single week. We are separating episodes 1 and 2 because we have the screeners, and we will be able to drop them ASAP for you guys. So again, we know that there's a possibility that you're going to watch 2 episodes and want to just hear the episode 2 coverage, but we also know that there's people that just want as much supplemental content as possible. We're those people, so we just wanted to throw it out for you guys. If you like what you heard, check us out at bingetowntv.com, or you can check us out on any of your favorite podcasts at Bingetown TV. Like I also said in the intro, we have so many different shows that we covered and will be covering. We're not just a Dark Matter podcast. So if you like what you heard, you can listen to any of our coverage. We have House of the Dragon, The Boys, The Bear, all coming up. We have a couple other shows that we're going to do one-offs. I believe we're going to do a Fallout one-off at one point. There's going to be stuff all over the place. So stay tuned, guys. Again, bingetowntv.com or any of your favorite podcast apps, Bingetown TV. Once again, we are Bingetown TV, and thank you so much. Once again, we are Bingetown TV, and thank you so much for listening.